Hello everyone. Today, the wind outside your window may carry the hum of electricity, the rustle of restless leaves, or the quiet pulse of city life. But tonight, we're traveling back, far beyond the noise, to a place where silence had shape, and the first breath of the morning smelled not of traffic, but of sand, stone, and life reborn. Drop a comment with where you're watching from and what time is it. It's always amazing to see how far these stories travel. Dim the lights, soften your pillow, and let your thoughts slow. Because tonight, you're not just listening to a story, you're stepping into it. You wake before the sun does. It's the kind of morning that doesn't begin with noise, but with stillness, a breath held by the earth itself. Around you, the desert hasn't moved for 1,000 years. The sand is cool underfoot, like the skin of a sleeping animal. Somewhere behind the horizon, Ra, the sun god, is stirring in his boat, preparing to rise from the underworld and sail across the sky. The Nile lies to your east, still and dark, reflecting only the promise of light. In the distance, palms tremble ever so slightly in a breeze you cannot feel yet. This is Egypt, not as seen through textbooks or museum glass, but as lived, barefoot and breathing. You are here, and here, beauty is not vanity. It's a language, a protection, a daily ritual whispered between mortals and gods, a way of aligning oneself with the order of the cosmos, known as Ma'at, a concept deeper than law or justice. Ma'at is balance, harmony, cleanliness, clarity, and in this ancient land, the dust on your feet, the oil on your skin, and the scent behind your ear all speak of whether you are in alignment or out of place. This morning, your first act is not to eat nor to speak. It is to cleanse. You walk, half awake, to the basin where yesterday's water has settled into a kind of quiet mirror. You dip your hands in, not all at once, not in haste. The water is from the Nile, but it has been blessed with herbs crushed by your grandmother's fingers and oils poured with intention. The surface breaks softly as your hands move, and a scent rises. Something floral, something ancient, something familiar. Maybe it's blue lotus, a flower once believed to open with the sun and close at night, echoing the rhythms of the world. Maybe it's frankincense, resin gathered from faraway lands, sticky and sacred. Or myrrh, with its sweet and smoky melancholy. You rub the water over your arms, your neck, behind your ears. Not because you're dirty, but because the gods are watching. Because to be unclean is to invite disorder, and you've seen what happens when Ma'at is forgotten. This is not a bath. This is communion. Long before the concept of beauty was reduced to reflections and photographs, it was reverence. In Egypt, to appear in a state of care, scented, shaved, oiled, was to signal to the world that you respected the divine order. Dust was death, decay was chaos, cleanliness was devotion. And so, the people learned to listen to the body and to the earth. The desert taught them, because here, the land gives little, and everything you have, you hold close. Your skin, assaulted daily by the sun, needed more than shelter. It needed protection. And so oils were not luxuries, they were necessity. Mixed with crushed almonds, castor beans, or even crocodile fat, these balms sealed the skin against dryness and heat. They were applied not once, but multiple times a day, as often as one might offer a prayer. Imagine the slow press of fingertips into shoulders, the smell of cinnamon and honey melting into warm skin. Imagine the careful parting of hair to dab ointments along the scalp, not rushed, not absent-minded, but as a daily dance between mother and child, or lover and beloved. Even children were adorned, their heads shaved to avoid lice and the heat, save for the sidelock of youth, a symbol of their becoming. Their skin was perfumed, their eyes rimmed with protective kohl. Their names were whispered into the oils that touched their skin, as if saying, May you be seen by the gods as worthy of care. The sun rises slowly, spilling gold onto the limestone walls of your home. You are not rich, not in the way the nobles are. But you are not poor either. Your house has rooms. Your family has linen. You have a small mirror made of polished bronze that catches the morning light and throws it back at you in soft distortions. And this is the face you see. Not perfectly symmetrical, not unmarked by sun or wind, but alive, present, in tune with something larger than itself. You dip your finger into a clay jar. The cream inside smells of beeswax and rose. You smooth it over your cheeks, your lips, the corners of your eyes, not to change yourself, but to preserve what time has given, and maybe, just maybe, to prepare. Because beauty in Egypt is not passive. It is preparation for a visit, a ritual, a chance meeting, or even death. Yes, even death. Because the body you inhabit will someday be preserved, wrapped, oiled, perfumed, and laid to rest as a vessel of eternal identity. And how you treat it now is part of how you will be remembered then. So you line your eyes with kohl, a thick black paste made from ground galena, a lead-based mineral, yes, but also a barrier, against the glare of the sun, against flies, against the evil eye. The dark line creates contrast. It deepens your gaze. It tells the world, I am protected. I am aware. I am divine. And perhaps that's the secret of Egyptian beauty. It was never about attracting others. It was about invoking the gods within yourself. Outside, the street is waking. Women sweep doorways with bunches of palm fronds. A vendor calls out about fresh dates and warm bread. Somewhere, a priest begins to chant. The sound rises with the heat, mingling with the smell of burning incense and morning fires. You wrap a piece of linen around your head, not purely for modesty, but because hair is sacred. And then you step outside, into the golden flood of sun and noise and scent. But before you do, you pause. You reach again for the oil. Just a little. On the neck. On the wrists. You rub it in slowly, your fingers finding the pulse beneath your skin. A reminder, you are alive. The oil sinks into your flesh like memory. And now, just breathe. Because while the rest of the world may look upon ancient Egyptian beauty as mere exotic ornament, you know otherwise. You have felt the texture of that world. You have smelled its intentions. You have heard the morning, not as a rush, but as a return. To cleanse was to come back to yourself. To adorn was to remember your place in the sacred design. To smell of myrrh was to walk with the gods. And so, today, you are ready. Not to impress, not to perform, but to be seen by the sky, by the ancestors, by the parts of yourself that only silence can awaken. You live in a world where the divine is never far. Here, in the valleys of the Nile, beauty is not a distraction. It is not vanity. It is not even yours alone. It is a language, one spoken not only with eyes or skin, but with intention. It is how you greet the gods. Your morning begins not with food, nor with sound, but with water, warm, silent, and infused with memory. You pour it slowly over your fingers, your neck, the curve of your shoulders. It smells of blue lotus and camphor, of herbs steeped under the moon. This is not bathing. This is realignment. Realignment with Ma'at, the ancient order of the cosmos. Truth, harmony, balance. Every gesture is a prayer. To be clean is to be present. To be fragrant is to be remembered by the divine. In the great temples, priests bathe 5 times a day before approaching the sacred. But you, a woman of the earth, carry the same reverence in your own home. The unguent jar of rose and honey, consecrated to Hathor, the kohl lining your eyes, protector against glare, spirits, and forgetfulness. The oil on your wrist, not a perfume, but a declaration. I am alive. I am respectful. I am in order. Here, beauty is ceremony. and every day is a sacred day. You remember being a child, watching your mother draw a line beneath each eye. She did not do it for others. She did it for herself, and for the sky, for the gods who see everything, and expect you to meet their gaze, not as dust, not as shadow, but as a flame, a small, steady flame. Beauty here has rules, but they are ancient and fluid. They are not about perfection. They are about coherence. Symmetry matters, because Mayat is symmetry. Fragrance matters, because the gods are drawn to scent. Cleanliness matters, because dust belongs to decay, and decay belongs to the chaos that threatens the world. So you oil your skin not for shine, but for survival. You pluck the stray hair not for fashion, but to remain whole. You wash your feet not for politeness, but because the path must be clean if the soul is to walk it. At festival time, everyone becomes more of themselves. Women wear layers of kohl that extend past the temples. Men scent their beards with pine resin. Children are anointed with drops of citrus and salt, tied with colored cords that ward off envy. The city smells different then, like joy, like risk, like preparation. Because beauty is not just for life, it is for the afterlife too. The body must be known to itself if it is to be recognized in the field of reeds. And when night falls and your rituals are quiet and slow, you return to the mirror, not to correct, not to pose, but to remember, to see the oil still glistening on your arms, the pigment still soft on your cheeks, the scent still pulsing on your wrist, and to think, I have done enough today, not for admiration, but for alignment, for order, for the sacred. You are born in a cool room with ochre walls, where sunlight enters softly, with reverence, as though the day itself has paused to welcome your arrival. Thebes is still half asleep, but your mother has been awake for hours, whispering old words to the ceiling, to the gods, to the stillness between contractions. Prayers of protection, of gratitude, of hope. And when your body takes its first breath, the air it receives is not cold or sterile. It is perfumed, with myrrh. Your mother has anointed her skin with it, her feet, her wrists, the hollow beneath her neck. The scent is sweet and smoky, ancient and intimate. When she gathers you in her arms, this is what you know first. Not words, not milk, not warmth, but the smell of her, of safety, of care. In the world of the living, a newborn is not just a body, it is a promise, a divine possibility. And to care for that promise begins with the body, small, soft, exposed to sun and wind and dust. Your grandmother has already prepared the balm. It waits in a clay jar, dark and viscous, a mix of goose fat, castor oil, and honey. As your mother rocks you, her mother dips her fingers into the balm and anoints you, arms, chest, behind the ears. Not rushed, not casually. Each touch is a blessing. You grow up in a house of scents. Your mother bathes in water steeped with mint. She rubs her feet with basil oil. The scent of bread mingles with burning incense. But your mother always smells of myrrh. People in the street know her by that. She walks like calm and smells like evening, someone once said. Scent here is more than presence. It is personality, identity, history. You learn this before you learn to speak. You learn to recognize who is near not by footsteps, but by smell. Love has a smell. So does grief. So does joy after a long wait. The world teaches you to breathe with attention. When you begin to walk, you start to mimic. You dip your fingers into bowls of oil, smear your face with flour paste, try to wrap your headscarf like hers. She laughs, then shows you how it's done. You learn not just how to look after yourself, but how to carry presence, how to be seen, not by others, by the gods. Children are not exempt from these rituals. You learn early to wash your feet before bed, to protect your eyes from the sun with kohl, to sleep with a sprig of lotus beneath your pillow. These small rituals become memory. You remember your first wig, its scent of beeswax and jasmine, your aunt applying balm when you were feverish, sharp with time and love. The sand scrub paste for stings, rough but healing. Every memory in childhood has a smell, and every smell a teaching. The older you get, the more conscious your care becomes. But it never becomes solitary. Self-care in Egypt is communal. It happens in circles, on rooftops, in shared laughter, as women braid each other's hair, crush pigment with stones, test clay on each other's arms. You listen to stories while soaking your feet in hibiscus water. You learn which oils keep well and which go rancid. You discover you like the sweetness of lily over the sharpness of rose. You begin to smell like yourself. And still, always, there is myrrh. It's in the hem of your scarf, in the creases of the bedsheets, on the curtain that sways in the window. When you sleep, you dream of sand that smells like safety, and when you wake, you carry it into the day. You don't know it yet, but one day, someone will be born in your arms. And when they are, you will smell of myrrh too. The sun begins its slow descent over Thebes, softening the harsh edges of stone and shadow. Its golden light bleeds across mud brick walls and palm fronds, catching in the corners of clay courtyards. The heat has not yet broken, but something in the air has shifted. Evening is coming, and with it, your body calls for water. Not with thirst, with longing. Your shoulders ache from labor, your feet throb from dust. The weight of the day clings to your skin like ash. It is time to let go, time to return to yourself. In your culture, bathing is not a hurried scrub in cold water. It is not an afterthought at the end of fatigue. It is a ritual, a return, a form of reverence. You step into the private corner of your home, a small open-air enclosure walled by stone and lined with worn, darkened tiles. This is the place where you release the world. Jars wait for you, warm from the day, water, herbs, sand, oil. You begin with your feet, always the feet. They have borne the most of the day. They know the road, the heat, the stone. You pour water slowly, watching it run in thin rivulets, darkening the floor, carrying with it not dirt, but residue of time, of tension. The scent of chamomile rises. It calms you. You move upward, ankles, calves, knees. Your hands move with memory, not thought. You don't bathe to become clean. You bathe to remember who you are beneath the dust. The water has been prepared with intention. Herbs soaked since morning, cooled in shadow, mixed with a few drops of tamarind vinegar. The smell is tangy, green, grounding. The feeling is of arrival. After rinsing, you reach for the oils. There are many, and you know them all by texture alone. One is thick and dark, good for aching joints. Another, clear and sharp, used when the wind makes your skin sting. You choose the balm with lavender today. Calming, floral, familiar. You dip your fingers in, warm it between your palms, then press it into your shoulders, your chest, your thighs. This is not anointment. This is communion. You massage with slow, circular motions, as though coaxing your soul back into your skin. You are not in a hurry. Here, time softens too. The air is cooler now. You sit on the low stone bench, still naked, still glistening. No one sees you here. And yet you feel seen. By the gods. By the sky. By yourself. You remember other nights like this. Your grandmother scrubbing her arms with salt and crushed flowers. Your sister humming while braiding oil through your hair. Your mother rubbing balm into her legs after childbirth, silently, with tears on her cheeks and no words spoken. Each gesture told a story. Each story lived on in skin. The world moves fast. But here, in this walled corner of water and shadow, you are not a worker, a wife, a mother, a daughter. You are a body. a soul, a sacred space in motion. You rise and pat your skin dry with linen, soft, worn, and sun-scented. You don't dress yet. You let the night touch you first. When the oil finally settles, you feel whole. You return to your bed not just washed, but restored. Your body sighs into the linen. Your breath slows. Your mind stops counting. The day has ended not with collapse, but with a blessing. And tomorrow, when you wake, you will begin again. But for now, just this moment, just this quiet, just this balm on your skin, still whispering, you are here. You awaken with the light already pressing at the edges of your woven curtain. Thebes hums quietly, still wrapped in the hush of morning, but you know the heat will soon follow. Before you eat, before you speak, before you step outside, there is something you must do. You reach for the small carved box beside your mirror. Inside, a slender ivory stick, a jar of powder, black as night, coal. It waits for you like a ritual, like a memory, like armor. In your world, the sun is not gentle. It glares, it scorches, it claws at your eyes and dries your lips. And long before the world discovered the idea of sunglasses, your people learned how to fight back, not just with shade, but with shadow. Coal, made from crushed galena stone, was not simply a cosmetic. It was medicine. It was defense. It was magic. As a child, you watched your mother line her eyes each morning. She never missed a day. Even when tired, even in grief, even when there was no one to see. Because coal was not about being seen. It was about seeing, clearly, with intention, with protection. You sit by the window now, where the light touches your cheek like a blessing. You dip the ivory stick into the powder and roll it gently between your fingers. Your grandmother taught you the motion. Steady, slow, in a curve, like the boat of Ra crossing the sky. You trace beneath your eye first, then above, shaping not just a line, but a threshold. Because the eyes here are sacred. They are not just for looking. They are doors, and every door must be guarded. The moment the coal touches your skin, you feel it, a coolness, a weight, a shift. Your gaze sharpens, your breath deepens, and you are no longer vulnerable. You are held. Science may say now that the lead in galena triggered nitric oxide, helping prevent infection, that the pigment deterred flies, that it reduced glare from the sun. But you don't need science. You have memory. Generations of women lining their eyes before entering markets, before birthing children, before funerals, before love, always. Even the statues in the temples wear coal. Even the gods, because to be divine is to see, without fear, without illusion, without interruption. And so you too prepare your eyes, not just to look outward, but to look inward. You remember a day when your eyes burned from fever. Your mother ground onion and acacia leaves into a paste, mixed it with coal, and laid cool cloths over your lids. You remember the scent, the sting, the relief. And when the pain faded, she whispered, "Now you can see again." As if the world had returned, as if the darkness had lifted, as if the eyes had memory too. During festivals, the coal becomes more elaborate. You extend the lines to your temples, add swirls and points, mimic the eyes of Bastet or Horus. The patterns are not decoration. They are prayer. Each shape calls a different energy. Some for clarity, some for courage, some for invisibility. Your body speaks through pigment. And the gods, listen. Men wear coal too. Scribes, soldiers, priests, anyone who needs protection, anyone who must witness, anyone who must face the fire of the world and remain unburned. You leave the house now, and the light is stronger, but you are not afraid. You meet the sun with shadow. You meet the street with a stare that says, I see you. But you do not enter. The line of coal is not thin. It is a wall. It is a boundary drawn with grace. You wear it all day. And when the dusk comes, and you wipe your face with a cloth scented of time and dust, you do so gently, not to erase, but to honor. The line has done its work. It has held the world at bay. It has held you upright. And tomorrow, when you dip the stick again, when you shape the line again, you will remember. Beauty is not always softness. Sometimes it is defense. The morning light rolls in with warmth, gentle but growing. Your body wakes slowly, but not silently. It calls, not in pain, but in subtle cues. A tightness behind the knees, a whisper of dryness along your forearms, a stiffness around the elbows that speaks without words. You rise and you answer, not with urgency, but with care, with ritual, with cream. In ancient Egypt, a balm is not just a remedy, it is a memory, ground, infused, stirred by hand. It is earth and effort and time, transformed, and it begins with texture. You make your way to the cool room at the back of your house, where the jars wait in shadow. The pots are unmarked. You don't need labels. You know them by color, by scent, by how your fingers sink into their contents. One is thick and sandy, a scrub made from red clay and powdered date seeds. One is velvety and pale, made with crushed almonds and honey. One is dark, almost black, slick with castor oil and the scent of pine. You choose what your body needs, not what it wants, what it asks for. The balm you reach for today was prepared days ago. A rich blend of moringa oil, beeswax, ground lotus petals, and a small measure of tamarind paste. You remember mixing it under the sun, stirring until it thickened, watching the way it changed color with each hour. Now, it is the color of honeyed earth, and it yields beneath your fingers like softened butter. You dip your hands, and begin with your feet, always the feet. They touch the world most often, and they remember. You rub the cream in slow circles, working it into the arches, the heels, the space between each toe. The balm smells of root and flower, heat and time. The grains are almost imperceptible, but they awaken the skin. You do not rush. Each gesture is deliberate, not a performance. A return. Next come the ankles, the calves, the knees. You remember what your grandmother taught. The skin drinks better when you speak kindly to it, and so you murmur. Not prayers, not words, just sound, just presence. Cream in Egypt is not a luxury, it is protection. The sun steals moisture. The wind leaves cracks. The dust takes more than it gives. A woman without balm is like a wall without paint, vulnerable, forgotten, silent. And so you coat yourself, to stay visible, to stay whole, to stay present. You recall learning how to make your first balm. Your aunt showed you how to pick the right sand, not too fine, not too sharp. You mixed it with warm fat, added dried hibiscus and a splash of vinegar. It smelled odd at first, but once warmed by skin, it turned into something beautiful. Not pretty, real. You've never forgotten that smell. It's not just a fragrance. It's an emotion. Some balms are made for sorrow. Deep, bitter, grounding, with cedar and ash. Others for joy, bright, citrusy, with orange peel and wild mint. And then there are those made for sleep, for dreaming, for remembering. Each cream is a map, each scent, a compass, each application, a journey. You continue. Belly, arms, shoulders, neck. Your body glows, not with light, but with intention. The balm becomes skin. The skin becomes language. And your whole self says, I am here. I am listening. At times, you use grainier creams to shed what clings. At others, You need the lightest oil to remind you how air feels against bare skin. Today, you needed weight, a barrier, a reminder that you still hold shape, even when the world pulls in every direction. When you are finished, you do not dress immediately. You sit, letting the breeze kiss each inch of oiled skin. You breathe in your own smell, earth, flower, salt, heat. And you are not ashamed of it. You are made of these things, of desert and river, of labor and lotion, of care passed down like recipe and song. In Egypt, even the dead are sent into the afterlife with balm on their limbs, not to preserve beauty, to preserve memory, because to forget the body is to forget the story. And stories, your elders taught you, live best in skin that has been touched, tended, told it is still worthy. So you rise, creamed, calm, contained. The balm remains, even as the day pulls you into noise. It lingers on your wrists, behind your ears, along your waist. A second skin, a quiet promise. You will return to yourself again. The sun rises late today, or maybe it's your mind that lingers longer in the dark. Either way, the light filters gently through the lattice, and you feel it. That small, undeniable urge to be someone slightly different this morning, not to become someone else, but to shift. To step into a version of yourself that waits in the corner of your room, resting on a carved wooden stand, wrapped in linen, smelling of cedar and jasmine, a wig. Today, you choose to wear one, and by doing so, you choose a story. In ancient Egypt, hair is not a trivial thing. Hair, or the decision to remove it, to cover it, to adorn it, is an act of will, of intention, of transformation. For many, the head is shaved, for purity, for comfort, for ritual. But that is never the end of the story, because what comes next is art. It is expression. It is power woven into strands of human hair, palm fibers, or sheep's wool, shaped by hands that understand more than fashion. They understand identity. Your wig is heavy in your hands. It's not your finest, not the most elaborate, but it is special. It's a blend of human hair and flax, dyed dark with indigo and perfumed with rosewood oil. The base is lined with linen, soft and familiar against the scalp. It smells like memory. When you place it on your head, you do not become someone else. You become more of yourself, expanded, enhanced, unveiled. As a child, you watched your aunt apply her wig before ceremonies. It changed her posture, her voice, her very presence. She wasn't pretending. She was arriving, stepping into the shape her soul had been waiting to take. You remember the first time you wore one. It was too big. You felt awkward, but beneath the nervous laughter, something clicked. You understood that the wig was not decoration. It was declaration, of mood, of message, of moment. There are many kinds of wigs, short and neat for scribes and merchants, tightly braided ones for the elite, cascading styles for dancers, adorned with beads of faience or gold. Some are shaped like river waves, others like fans. Some mimic the wings of birds. Each tells a story. Each says, "This is who I am today." Or maybe, "This is who I need to be to survive this day." Perfumers play a role too. They craft tiny cones of scented wax to be placed atop wigs during ceremonies. These melt slowly in the heat, releasing fragrances, myrrh, cinnamon, blue lotus, down the hair, the neck, the air. To wear a wig is not just to dress. It is to transform space, to shift how others see you and how you see yourself. You've learned to care for yours. You detangle with a bone comb. Oil the strands with almond extract. Rest it on a curved stand when not in use, never letting it crumple under its own weight. It is not a tool. It is a companion. It holds your secrets, and sometimes your strength. Men wear wigs too. Even priests, who shave their bodies to approach the gods, don ceremonial wigs for festivals. their heads adorned with thick braids that touch their shoulders like protective serpents. In Egypt, wigs are not gendered. They are symbolic and sacred. Today, as you walk through the market, you feel your wig swaying with each step. People glance, some smile. One or two nod in subtle recognition. Not admiration, but understanding. They see your choice, and they see you. You return home at dusk. Your hands lift the wig gently from your head. Your scalp breathes. You place it on its stand, and sit in silence for a moment, staring at it. This other you who lived today in the streets, who carried the heat, the glances, the voice of the day. You're not ready to become her again tomorrow, but you're glad she existed. In the world of Egypt, beauty is not fixed. It is fluid, and wigs, more than anything, remind you, you are never only one version of yourself. You are many, and each is worth wearing with care. The sun is low in the sky, stretched thin across rooftops and courtyards. You've washed your feet. The day's dust has settled, but you're not done preparing. There's something else, something invisible, yet unmistakably present, scent. And in Egypt, scent is never an afterthought. It's a voice, a presence, a memory made visible in air. You gather your materials with quiet care, not because they are rare, but because they are meaningful. Dried rose petals, a pinch of frankincense resin, a small drop of thick nard oil, dark as molasses, and your base, moringa oil, golden and light. You begin to mix. The rose crumbles first, sweet, familiar, soft. The frankincense cracks with a deeper note, sharp and ancient. And when the nard meets the moringa, the scent grows, layered, grounded, alive. You rub a little between your palms, then touch it gently to your neck, behind your ears, between your breasts, and along the inside of your elbows. These are not just pulse points. They are places where scent becomes spirit, where the message escapes the body and joins the air. Here, in Egypt, perfume is not simply to smell nice. It is to speak without words, to mark who you are, or who you need to be. Scent carries emotion. It carries memory. It tells your story before your mouth opens. And sometimes, it lingers after you've gone. You remember your mother's scent before you remember her face. She always smelled of myrrh and warm flower. Your grandmother? Blue lotus and goat's milk. Your friend Meret wears pine and sweet lemon. So even when she enters the room quietly, you know she's there. Scent is signature. And in the spaces between words, it speaks. In the marketplace, the air is thick with aromas. Smoked fish, fig paste, tamarind vinegar, but also clove oil from a spice vendor's wrist, cardamom wafting from a dancer's scarf, sandalwood lingering in the folds of a linen merchant's robe. You can tell who works where, who loves whom, who is grieving, all by what clings to them. Because scent is not static. It travels. It changes. It remembers. You recall visiting a perfumer once, a narrow shop near the river, where bowls of petals were stacked high and wax cones cooled in trays. He told you, some people want to hide with scent, others want to be found. You didn't answer then, but you think about it often, especially when you choose what to wear. The scents you choose also shift with mood. On restless days, mint and lemon, brisk, clear, alert. On quiet ones, labdanum and date, syrupy, nostalgic. During mourning, cedar for its solemnity. During love, jasmine for its mystery. You don't always understand your choices, but your body does. It knows what it needs to carry and what it needs to release. There are stories of people remembered not by name, but by smell. A widow whose scent was cloves and regret. A singer known for her mixture of honey and dust. a midwife whose clothes always held the faint trace of anise and blood. The nose is the library of the soul, and its catalogue is scent. You reapply your mixture before bed. A lighter touch this time, just a drop on the temples, a brush across the collarbone. The room darkens. The breeze moves through your window, and still, your scent remains. You are present, even as your eyes close. In the temples, the gods are dressed in oils. Statues are bathed in scent. Incense burns to draw them near, because even the divine is moved by fragrance. Even the unseen desires to be remembered by the invisible. And so, with each oil you press into your skin, you whisper a message. You are not asking for anything. You are simply saying, I am here. You're seated in the courtyard, shaded by a palm that's older than anyone you know. A bowl of water rests in your lap, deep and dark, with crushed roots and flower pulp. The smell rises, earthy, bitter, calming. Today is a henna day, and like all days that involve colour-touching skin, it's also a day for remembrance. In ancient Egypt, the hands are not simply tools. They are symbols. They hold memory. They shape bread, anoint the dead, weave offerings for the gods, write names that outlive the body. They carry not only labour, but language, which is why they are honoured, cared for, decorated. You learned this when you were young, not with explanation, but with repetition. Watching your grandmother rub lemon peel across her palms, her fingers stained deep orange with old henna. Watching your mother soak her hands in floral water before mixing the paste. You learned to see beauty in hands, not in how smooth they were, but in how they moved, how they served, how they held. Henna, or han as it was called, came from desert plants, and knowledge even older than writing. The leaves, dried and crushed, formed a fine green powder. When mixed with water, oil, or vinegar, it became paste. When applied to skin, it became ritual, a pattern, a prayer. Pu, you dip your fingers into the bowl. First the tips, then up to the first knuckles. The paste is cool, slightly gritty. Smells of mud, leaf, and thyme. You close your eyes and breathe. You remember the first time you were adorned this way. A wedding day, not your own, when your hands were painted with spirals and flowers to dance beside the bride. Each line was a blessing, each dot, a wish. You didn't understand it then, but you felt it. In the way the older women pressed your fingers between theirs, in how carefully they applied each line, in the silence between songs, the silence of sacredness. You let the henna sit, dry slowly, darken. This takes time. There's no shortcut to meaning. Later, when the paste flakes away, you see the results. Not black, like coal, but a rich orange, deepening by the hour. Your fingertips glow. The colour will last days, maybe a week, depending on how the wind and water treat you. But it's not about duration, it's about attention. The act of seeing your own hands and remembering, these are the parts of me that touch the world. On festive days, the designs become more complex. Geometry along the back of the hand, vines tracing the forearm, little circles around each nail. Each symbol holds something. Fertility, protection, love. You've drawn them on others. Let others draw on you. Each design shared like a story, passed in skin and silence. Your nails are filed with a piece of smooth stone. No polish but a soft sheen from oil and care. There's no shame in hands that show work, calluses, lines, the occasional nick from a pot or loom. But there's pride in hands that are tended, that have been seen, that have not been forgotten. The rituals vary. Some use henna only for weddings, some for grief, to honour what's passed with beauty, not just black. Some apply it before long journeys, some simply when the heart feels scattered. You do it for all these reasons, and for none of them, You do it because it brings you back to yourself, to the rhythm of touch, the smell of earth, the patience of waiting, the softness of old songs. At night, as you lie beneath your linen sheet, the scent of henna still clings to your skin. You turn your palm upward and see the faint markings glowing in the moonlight. Not bright, but present. And perhaps that's enough. Because even when you sleep, your hands remember. They remember work and rest, pain and joy, loss and return. And they will carry you through tomorrow. Still marked, still adorned, still yours. There is a kind of wisdom that doesn't come from scrolls or temples. It walks barefoot across sun-warmed courtyards. It smells of chamomile, beeswax, and thyme. It is worn in the bent fingers of age, the creased skin of patience, and the steady tone of a voice that knows when to speak and when to simply stir. This is the wisdom of the older women. And in Egypt, it's the kind that teaches you how to care for your body and for your soul. You grew up among them, not always understanding, but always absorbing. You sat at the edge of the gathering, legs tucked under you, watching their movements, the scraping of a spoon across clay, the testing of balm on a wrist, the way they smelled a jar twice before approving it. They never hurried, and they never wasted. Even silence had meaning. Even stillness had weight. Beauty, for them, was not performance. It was rhythm, a way of marking time, a kind of remembering. You watched them steep herbs without boiling, grind powders without spilling, oil their legs as they whispered stories to the wind. You learned without being taught, because in their presence, knowledge was not given. It was offered, gently, repeatedly, until it settled into you like a second heartbeat. The rituals were shared, not hoarded. On rooftops, they braided each other's hair. In courtyards, they traced coal onto one another's eyes. Around fires, they passed unguents from hand to hand, each adding a drop of something different, memory, perhaps, or grief, or celebration. You listened, not only to words, but to the pauses between them, to the sighs, to the soft thud of a pestle against stone, to the crackle of an old woman's knees as she sat beside you, saying nothing, yet saying everything. "Don't perfume yourself when angry," one said once. "The henna carries your wish, so know it before you mark," another warned. "The mirror shows only what the soul permits," murmured a third. These were not rules, they were invitations to slow down, to listen inward, to care, not for admiration, but for alignment. You remember a day your aunt couldn't rise from bed. She had lost something, someone. Her skin was dull, her eyes unfocused. You were young. You didn't know what to do, but your grandmother did. She entered quietly, sat at the edge of the bed, opened a jar of warm lotus oil, and began to comb your aunt's hair, gently, without a word. No instructions, no solutions, just presence, just touch. And slowly, your aunt returned, not to joy, but to herself. And that, they had taught you, was the first step of healing. These women didn't separate beauty from life. They massaged aching feet while giving counsel. They applied balm to cracked hands while recalling dreams. They scrubbed elbows and remembered their lovers. They didn't stop caring for themselves when they aged. They cared more, because their bodies were not less sacred. They were more storied, more lived in, more worthy of reverence. You see them in yourself now, in the way you apply cream behind your knees, in how you hold your wrists steady while pouring oil, in how you wait a moment before opening your eyes in the morning, listening first to your own breath. They live in these gestures, and in the silences between them. You are no longer the child at the edge of the room. You are the woman with the steady hands. You are the one a girl watches, quietly. And one day, when she's asked how she learned to care for her skin, or her sorrow, or her strength, she'll say your name, not because you taught her, but because she saw you, and because in that seeing, she remembered herself. The day is still new, but the sun already presses its gold across the tiles of your room. You reach for the low table, where your jars and brushes rest, and nestled among them, your mirror. It's not glass, it's bronze, polished to a soft shine. It doesn't show you everything, but it shows enough. And maybe that's the point. The mirror is warm in your hand. You trace the edge of the disc with your thumb, not sharp, but defined. Its handle is carved from wood, smoothed from years of use, shaped like a papyrus stalk, or a goddess, or a symbol of breath. It reflects. But not perfectly. There is no perfection here, only presence. You see your face, slightly bent, slightly blurred. The line of your jaw is gentler, your eyes darker. The light bounces strangely, like a memory remembered too late. And still, you look, not to check, but to return, to yourself. Mirrors in Egypt are sacred, not just tools. They are doorways, symbols of rebirth, of awareness, of self. You've seen them carved into tombs, offered in shrines, placed in the hands of those crossing into the next life. Because the journey doesn't stop at death. And sometimes, to move forward, one must first see what is already there. Your mother used to polish her mirror with salt and linen. She said the clearer the bronze, the more honest the reflection. But not too clear. You don't need to see every flaw to know you are whole, she'd say, smiling at her own bent reflection. You didn't understand then. Now you do. You sit near the window, light touching the mirror's surface. You see your face again. But also, the space behind you, the quiet shelves, the shadow of a clay jar, the ripple of curtain caught in the wind. The mirror shows more than your features. It shows your context, your stillness, your realness. As you trace kohl beneath your eyes, you pause, not to assess the line, but to witness the act, to remember the ritual. Your grandmother's hands once moved like this. So did your aunt's. So do yours. Each stroke, a link. Each gaze, a continuity. There are days when you avoid the mirror, when your eyes are too tired, when your spirit feels cracked. On those days, you pass the mirror silently. Let it wait. Let it hold space. Because mirrors do not demand, they invite. And some invitations must be declined until you are ready. But when you return, you don't return to critique. You return to reconnect. To see the oil still on your skin, the curve of your lip, the shape of your gaze, not beautiful, not flawless, but here, fully, now. Priestesses once consulted mirrors in rituals, not for divination, but for clarity. They would light lamps near the bronze, let smoke drift across its face, and then peer through it, as though looking not just at themselves, but through themselves. You've never done that. But you've stared long enough to know that sometimes a reflection is more than sight. It's memory. It's proof. It's a whisper. You are still you, even when tired, even when unadorned, even when alone. You finish your preparation, place the mirror gently back on the cloth, and walk into the rest of your day. You do not forget your face, nor cling to it. You carry it with you, not as decoration, but as witness, to all the women before you, to all the ones who will come after, to the life you live, moment by imperfect moment, reflected in bronze. The morning is already warm. Outside, the streets breathe dust and light. And within your home, the first layers of balm melt against your skin. You smooth oil along your arms and neck, not hurried, not distracted. But today, as your fingers glide over the surface of your shoulder, you pause, you look, you really look, at your skin. And remember, not all skin is seen the same. Not here, not anywhere, and especially not in Egypt. You are neither rich nor poor. Your home is modest, but your body is cared for. Your skin, exposed daily to sun, to sand, to firelight, is not pale, it is golden, warmed by labor, deepened by walks along the Nile, kissed by the dust of fields and streets. It is beautiful. But in the whispers of the marketplace, in the scrolls of the scribes, in the careful pigment of tomb paintings, a message hides. Fair skin means leisure. Fair skin means protection. Fair skin means class. You were not born into the shade, you were born into the sun. And for most of your life, that never troubled you. But then came the day someone said, "She must work hard. Look how dark her arms are." They meant no insult, but it stayed, because beneath the words lay a truth ancient and silent. Color is more than hue. It is signal. It is story. The elite women, those who lived within courtyards and palaces, covered themselves with linen from throat to ankle, walked beneath parasols, bathed in milk and goat's cream to lighten their complexion. Their servants scrubbed them with chalk and white clay. Their children played indoors. Their skin rarely met the sun, and this, they said, was refinement. But among the people, the ones who moved, built, fetched, traded, raised, taught, the skin darkened. And that darkness told the truth of effort, of exposure, of life lived outward, not under cover, but under sky. Your grandmother had hands the color of bronze, polished by sun and earth. When you were little, you once asked if they would ever turn light like the women who rode by in litters. She laughed. "Why would I want to hide what I've earned?" At the time, you didn't understand. Now, you do. Still, even among your own, there were tricks, powders to lighten, clays to even tone. Some women wore thin veils in summer, not for modesty, but to retain paleness. Others soaked in vinegar and crushed pearl, hoping for a smoother glow. Not everyone chased fairness. But many noticed it, admired it, and quietly wished for it, not for beauty, but for what it meant. You once knew a girl who burned her cheeks trying to bleach her skin with salt and lemon left too long in the sun. She cried not from pain, but from shame. And you, sitting beside her, dabbed balm into her skin and whispered nothing, because no words would unteach what she had absorbed. That lighter was safer, that darker meant lower. That skin was status. But history, you've learned, is more layered than shade. The queens painted themselves. The dancers oiled their skin until it shone like polished obsidian. The priests in the desert burned daily, and their skin carried marks of fire and devotion. And the gods, they were of all colors. Osiris, green as new life. Hathor, gold as dawn. Anubis, black as the fertile earth. Color here was symbolism, power, transformation. And your skin? It has carried sun and wind, softness and scars. It has felt the Nile's coolness and the grit of stone paths. It has been pressed in love, slapped in anger, held in grief, praised in laughter, and it still holds you, still protects you, still speaks of where you've been and who you are. So today, as you oil your skin, you don't reach for the powder. You don't press pigment to lighten. You press with care, with recognition, with pride. You know now that skin cannot tell a full story, but it can hold memory. And yours holds many, and each one matters. The day begins with silence. Not the silence of sleep, but the kind that follows a final breath. Someone has died. A woman. Not young, but not yet old. A mother. A wife. A singer once known for her voice in the temple of Hathor. Now she lies still, wrapped, cooled, watched, and the rituals begin. You are among the women summoned, not to mourn, not yet. First, to prepare. Because in Egypt, the dead are not discarded. They are dressed, they are scented. They are made beautiful, not for vanity, but for voyage. because no one enters the afterlife in rags. No one crosses to the field of reeds without grace. You walk to the house of the dead. There is already scent in the air, frankincense burning low, juniper and myrrh rising from clay cups. Her body rests on a table of stone, surrounded by oils, linen, unguent jars. No cries, no wails, only care. The ritual is older than memory. You do not question it. You know what to do. You wash her skin first, gently, with lotus water and a touch of lime. You do not scrub, you do not hurry. You treat her as one who still feels, because perhaps she does. Then you oil her, almond for the arms, castor for the legs, a touch of cinnamon near the heart. Her skin responds, even in stillness. It gleams faintly, like wet clay in morning light. You braid her hair next, or what remains of it. You weave in thin cords scented with cedar and clove. You wrap a small band of linen around her forehead, not tight, but secure, not for fashion, for remembrance. Others enter. A priest recites prayers near the doorway. Children light lamps. A woman sings, low, broken, more breath than sound. And still, you work, not with grief, with reverence, because this is not the end. It is the passage, and beauty is part of the offering. You prepare the scent cone last, a small dome of wax shaped by hand, filled with nard and sweet myrtle. It will be placed atop her head when the procession begins, melting slowly, releasing fragrance with each step toward burial. You place it now in a sealed jar. It will wait. It will do its part. In Egypt, the body must be honored. The ka, the life force, remains near, and to comfort it, the flesh must be made worthy, perfumed, dignified, recognizable, because the dead do not vanish, they become, and scent helps them remember. The embalmers will do the rest. They will take her from here, not like a thing, but like a vessel. They will pack her in natron, drain her blood, fill her with resins and cloth. You will not see her again. Not like this. Not until the final day. The day of burial. When it arrives, the scent leads the way. Not flowers, not ash, but perfume. Carried by the mourners, dabbed behind ears, pressed into corners of shrouds. The whole crowd moves like a cloud of meaning. Soft, fragrant, full of sorrow and honor. You walk behind them, your own wrists marked with sandalwood and lemon. Not for display, for connection. So that when she rises on the other side, if she rises, she will remember you. She will know she was loved. At the tomb, you place one final jar. Inside, a balm of rare ingredients. Cinnamon, blue lotus, goose fat, date oil. It is not labeled. It does not need to be. The gods will know, and so will she. The tomb is sealed. The scent fades slowly, but in your mind, it lingers. Like all beautiful things, you return home in silence. Wash your hands, rinse your tools, sit by the window, and cry, not from despair, from gratitude, that you got to dress her for forever, that you helped her go with dignity, that you were part of the bridge between this world and the next. Because in Egypt, death is not ugly, it is not hidden, it is prepared, perfumed, guided by beauty, until the final breath becomes the first step, and every scent becomes a compass. Homeward, the beauty box as legacy, what you leave behind. The light is low, golden, quiet. You sit beside your chest, the one carved from sycamore wood, etched with small designs of lotus and fish, sealed with a copper clasp worn from years of touch. It is not large, but it is yours, your beauty box, your legacy. You've had it since you were young, gifted by your mother on the day of your first bleeding. She gave it with a whisper, not a speech. "This is yours now," she said, placing it in your lap. still smelling of saffron and smoke. Use it with care. Keep it with love. Pass it when the time is right. At the time, you didn't understand the weight of it. Now, you do. Inside the box is not gold, not gemstones, not scrolls, but something rarer. Memory, identity, gesture. Everything a woman uses not only to prepare herself, but to understand herself. A carved stick for coal, darkened at the tip. A stone palette for mixing pastes. A comb with 3 broken teeth. 2 jars, one with dried petals, the other with thick, pale balm that smells faintly of rose and ash. A mirror, cracked, but still reflecting. These are not treasures to others. They are not things that shine. But to you, they are chapters, each one marked with laughter, with grief, with silence. The balm was the one you made when your son was born, a mix of almond oil and mint, pressed into your belly every night to soothe the stretch of life. The comb was your sister's, lost for weeks, then returned during a festival, still tangled with her hair. The coal stick once broke in half during an argument. You fixed it with resin, then painted your eyes anyway, tears mixing with pigment, forming your own kind of ink. Every item tells not just one story, but many. In Egypt, a woman's beauty box is part of her burial. It is placed beside her in the tomb, not as ornament, but as map. Because what you wore in life, you wear again in eternity. Not clothing, not jewels, but presence, scent, symbol. You've seen other boxes, some grand, filled with ivory pots, obsidian mirrors, rare oils imported from lands beyond the Red Sea. Some humble, a single jar wrapped in cloth, hidden beneath the bed. Each box is different. Each is sacred. Not because of what it holds, but because of who it held. You think now of your daughter, still small, still unknowing, but growing. You wonder what she will place in her own box. Will it be your mirror, your last jar of balm, or something entirely her own, a scent you've never worn, a tool you've never used, a rhythm you've never taught? You hope for that. You hope for difference and for continuation, both, at once. Your hands move carefully. You lift each object, clean its edge, run your fingers across grooves worn smooth with time. You whisper to them, not words, but thanks, because they served you. Not always perfectly, but faithfully. One day, you will pass the box, or it will be passed with you, into earth, into forever, and someone will open it, here or beyond, and know, you lived with care, you moved with grace, you chose your rituals not for beauty alone, but for meaning. The balm will dry, the mirror will tarnish, the wood may split, but the gesture will remain, the silence of preparation, the tenderness of self-tending, the truth that care is inheritance. That beauty is not what you take, it's what you leave. And so you close the box, not with finality, with reverence, and place it back beneath the cloth, where it will wait, like memory, like promise, like a soft voice across generations saying, "This was mine. Now it may be yours." The night is different. You feel it before you see it. The air is thicker, heavy with the scent of date ash and orange blossom. The moon is fuller than usual, hovering low, luminous. It lights the tiled floor of your home in long silver ribbons. You've been preparing all day. But this final ritual is not about presentation. It's about release and remembrance. This is your last night in this house. Tomorrow you leave, not by death, not by loss, by choice. A new home awaits, another family, another season of life. But before that, this night must be honored, not for the sake of tradition, but for your soul, because in Egypt, you do not cross thresholds lightly. You prepare, you pause, you give thanks, and you cleanse. You begin with the floor. You sweep it slowly, not to remove dust, but to mark passage. Each stroke a goodbye, each corner cleared not for cleanliness, but for clarity. Then, you move to your jars. You open each one, let the scent rise, remember. This one, balm made after a miscarriage. That one, a lotion from your mother's recipe, rich with poppy seed and vinegar. Another, your daughter's first scented oil, bitter orange and too much clove. You don't discard them. You touch, you smell, you close, you bless. Next, you bathe, but not in haste. You heat the water until it steams, then steep herbs, marjoram, mint, dried hibiscus. You undress, not just physically. You let the layers of the day fall away, of identity, of role, of memory. You step into the basin. The water is not just warm. It welcomes, it forgives, it listens. You wash slowly, neck, chest, arms, thighs, feet. You thank each part, not for its perfection, but for its presence, its perseverance, its quiet loyalty. After drying with a soft cloth, you reach for your mirror, not to assess, to witness, to say, I am still here. You line your eyes with kohl, not for beauty, but for strength. You oil your skin, not for softness, but for memory. You braid your hair, not for others, but for continuity. Then you dress, not in your finest, but in something familiar, something that smells of years. You light a lamp, not a bright one, a small flickering flame, and beside it, you place 3 objects, your comb, your kohl stick, your last cone of perfume. You say nothing. Words are not needed. Presence is. Later, you sit on the floor. Your daughter comes. She watches you, not speaking, just learning. She begins to mimic, brushing oil along her arm, tracing her eyebrow, holding the comb the way you do. You guide her fingers, gently. You don't teach tonight. You transmit, through motion, through stillness, through presence. She does not know yet that she will remember this night forever, that its softness will return in moments of loss, or growth, or solitude. You don't tell her, you let it happen. Before bed, you take out a linen square, your mother's cloth. You lay it across the pillow, not for dust, for comfort. A scent from years ago lingers in its threads. It calms, it centers. It says, sleep is safe. Tomorrow will come. You are not alone. And as you lie down, the lamp still burning low, the air rich with oil and past, you close your eyes not to end the day, but to seal it, like a jar, like a chapter, like a life you will carry forward, one breath, one step, one ritual at a time. Tomorrow you will begin again, another home, another mirror, another bowl of balm. But this moment, this final night, it will remain within you, around you, forever. Because beauty, in the end, is not what you carry on your skin. It's what you carry in your gestures, your silences, your goodbyes. The body is not forgotten. Eternity, an embalmed elegance. It begins after death, not with weeping, not with burial, but with preparation. In Egypt, the body is not dismissed once breath ends. It is honored, revered, preserved. Because in this land, the land of sun and stone, gods and grain, the body is not separate from the soul. It is its companion, its vehicle, its memory. And when life ends, the care continues. The embalmers arrive silently, as they always do, clad in white, hands stained with resin, voices low. They do not speak to the family, not yet. Their focus is inward, sacred. They bow to the body, not out of fear, out of respect. Because what lies before them is no longer just flesh. It is a doorway, and it must be treated as such. You are here, not to lead, to witness. You have seen this before, but each time is different. Each face carries a new weight. Each death asks new questions. Each ritual tells a different story. They begin with cleansing. Water from the Nile, warm, filtered, blessed, is poured gently across the feet, the hands, the face. not to clean, to welcome, to soothe, to remind the body you are still worthy of care. Then, the oils, frankincense, myrtle, cedar, rubbed into skin, into scalp, into the creases between fingers. The scent fills the room, sharp, rooted, deep. This is not perfume. It is memory, made liquid. The body is then dried with natron, the sacred salt of the desert. It pulls moisture, and with it, decay. They pack the chest cavity with herbs and cloth, sage, mint, crushed cinnamon bark, to protect from smell, but also to tell the gods, this person lived with care. This person enters with dignity. The eyes are covered with linen pads soaked in resin. The mouth is sealed, not closed, but blessed, because words still hold power, even in death, and the dead must speak carefully. For days the body lies in natron, 30, 40, more. Time loses shape, but scent remains. The room hums with oils. Each morning the embalmers return. They do not rush. The dead deserve patience, more than the living ever did. When the body is ready, the final rituals begin. First, the skin is rubbed with unguent, thick, golden, a mix of beeswax and cedar oil. It brings back sheen, not life, but presence. Then, the wrapping. Each limb wrapped separately, each layer brushed with resin, each turn accompanied by a word, a gesture, a name. Because the body must remember itself. In the next world, it must arrive whole, recognizable, beautiful. Amulets are placed over the heart, the scarab, at the throat, a turquoise fish, between the toes, a glyph of air. Each one whispers protection, not from evil, but from forgetting. For the dead, forgetting is the greatest danger. You place one jar beside the wrappings, your own, a gift. It contains balm, made with rose, honey, and a single drop of your, not for the skin, for the memory. You want the gods to smell it and know, this one was loved, this one was cared for, this one is ready. Finally, the face. It is not painted. It is not disguised. It is honored. A soft cloth is pressed against it, soaked in cinnamon and blue lotus. It leaves a faint mark, not a stain, a signature, a seal of grace. The coffin waits, carved from wood, painted with gold, lapis and ink, not to impress, to tell a story of who she was, of what she believed, of where she is going. You read the glyphs silently. They speak of light, of eternity, of reunion, of joy beyond the veil. She is lifted carefully, placed within, the lid closed, but the story open, still unfolding, still fragrant, still alive in memory. The burial follows, but that is for the world to see. This quiet, meticulous tending is for the soul, and for you. Because you know now, more than ever, the body is not a vessel to be used and discarded. It is a book. It is a shrine. It is a record of every moment. And in death, as in life, it deserves beauty, not to impress, but to remember. It begins at dawn, not with words, with scent. The first rays of sunlight touch the temple stone, and already the air is thick with perfume. Myrrh smoulders from clay burners. Incense rises like silk. Sweet resin sticks to the fingers of the priests. The gods are not yet visible, but they are present. Because in Egypt, gods do not arrive with trumpets or thunder. They arrive with fragrance, with the breath of blossoms, with the hush of burning sap. They come because they are called, and the nose is the holiest door. You rise early, feet still cold from sleep, and begin your own preparation. You are no priestess, not officially, but in your home, every offering is a ritual, every scent a prayer. You grind frankincense, mix it with date pulp, add a dash of wine. You press the mixture into a small ball and place it beside your doorway. For bastet, for warmth, for protection. You don't expect a voice from heaven. You expect presence. And presence has a scent. The temples too begin with scent. Before food is offered, before statues are dressed, before chants rise, there is perfume. Not for the priests, not for the people, for the gods themselves. Because to worship is not to ask. It is to welcome, and nothing welcomes like a well-chosen smell. The gods of Egypt have many forms. Falcons, cats, crocodiles, stars. But nearly all are described with one shared power. They smell. Ra smells the breath of morning. Isis smells the grief of the sea. Anubis smells the secrets of the dead. And Hathor, golden, radiant, beloved, is said to live within the scent of blue lotus and honey. She does not walk. She wafts. She does not speak. She surrounds. The priests know this. They prepare their perfumes carefully. Some take days. They soak rose petals in wine, strain them through linen, add resins imported from Punt. They combine galbanum with storax, melt beeswax, pour oils over carved stones to teach them the scent. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is rushed, because the wrong scent can offend. And the right scent can open doors between worlds. You once visited a temple at dusk. The rituals were nearly over. But the scent remained. It clung to the columns. It drifted in the shadows. You remember it more than the words. You remember how it made you feel, not awe, but intimacy, as though you'd walked into the memory of the gods, as though they had exhaled just before you entered. The nose, your grandmother said, is the quickest path to memory, and so it must be the closest path to the divine, because what is God, if not the greatest memory? The memory of where we came from, of who we are, of what the world could be if scented with kindness. Even the dead carry perfume, not for their own sake, for the gods, to show readiness, to declare devotion, to say, I am not afraid to be known, because to smell is to know, to recognize, to remember. And the gods, like you, want to remember the ones who loved them, even after centuries, even after silence, even after stone. You place a final drop of lotus oil on your wrists, not as decoration, as a whisper, a breath, a reminder that today, like every day, the divine does not begin in the sky, it begins in the nose. The day begins to exhale. The sky softens to lavender. The sounds of animals fade. Lanterns are lit in small corners of the neighborhood, flickering against clay walls. The scent of baking barley lingers in the air, soon replaced by the perfume of balm and crushed herbs. Inside your home, you begin the most sacred ritual of all. Not a feast, not a festival, not even a prayer, a preparation. For sleep. For forgetting, for leaving the day behind. Because in Egypt, sleep is not absence, it is passage, it is trial, it is sacred, and the body must be made ready. You start with silence. You put away the tools of labor. You rinse your hands. You gather what you need. Cloth, oil, a small mirror, a dried branch of mint, a lamp nearly burned through. These are not luxuries. They are your guides, each one familiar, each one chosen. Each one speaking the language of rest. You remove your jewelry slowly, not because it's heavy, but because it's a kind of shedding of the world, of the roles, of the noise. Each ring, each bracelet, each bead of colored glass slides away, revealing something more delicate beneath. You, unadorned, unshielded, whole. You wash your face, not with soap, with cool water and crushed hibiscus. The scent is sharp. The splash awakens something ancient, a reminder that the day has ended, and now you must let it go, not forget. Not erase, but release. You speak softly to yourself as you cleanse. Not words of beauty, words of permission. You've done enough. You may rest. You will return. Next, your skin. You oil your body with a balm mixed that morning. Moringa, tamarind, a little myrrh. You press it gently into your thighs, your shoulders, the soles of your feet. Not for softness, for grounding, for memory. Because as you sleep, the body will dream, and it must remember who it is, what it loves, where it has been. Your mirror reflects only shadow now, but you hold it anyway. You look, you meet your own eyes. You nod. You don't need to like what you see. You only need to recognize it. To say, this is me. Still. Always. You sit for a moment before the lamp. Its light flickers. Your thoughts drift. You recall the face of a friend you haven't seen in seasons. The curve of a riverbank at dusk. The smell of your grandmother's hair as she kissed your forehead once, long ago. These things do not return during the day. Only now. Only in this quiet. Only when your body is softened by balm and your heart is no longer defending itself. You climb into bed. The linen is cool. The pillow smells faintly of rose and dust. You pull the sheet over your legs, tuck it at your side, place your hands on your belly. Not posed, just present. You do not rush sleep. You allow it, like a guest, like a mystery, like a god you once knew by name. In temples, the priests say that sleep is a rehearsal for death, but you do not fear it, because you prepare for it as you prepare for life, with care, with intention, with scent, and softness, and slowness. Your eyes close, but your skin remembers, the oil, the balm, the breath of hibiscus in the air. You drift, and as the world fades, you whisper, I return to myself. I leave nothing behind. I am held. And in this holding, the gods find you. In this softness, the soul restores. In this ritual, you do not vanish. You become. Again, the sky is barely light, just the faintest silver edge above the palm trees. The birds are quiet. The streets still belong to wind and shadow. You are awake before the city is. You rise without sound. No rush, no urgency, just rhythm, just return. Because morning is not a beginning, it is a continuation. And in Egypt, every day begins where the last one ended. Not with obligation, but with beauty. You step into the courtyard. The tiles are cool beneath your feet. The air is sweet with early dew. Somewhere a neighbor stirs water in a clay pot. Somewhere a gate creaks open. But here, in your small world, time is suspended. You begin with water, not to wash, to greet. You pour it slowly over your hands, then your face. The touch is electric, not cold, just alive. You do not scrub. You welcome. You say with your skin, I have arrived again. And the body replies, I remember. Your beauty items wait. Not in a box this time, on a low shelf, beside a window where light now creeps in. You choose what feels right, not by habit, by intuition. A balm made of olive oil and mint. A clay paste mixed yesterday with vinegar and rose water. Your coal stick, your old mirror. You begin, not to become beautiful, to remember that you already are. You apply the balm with your fingertips, throat, jaw, shoulders. The scent is green, new, slightly sharp. It wakes you more than the water did. It tells your blood to rise. It tells your lungs to deepen. It tells your soul, you are safe. The clay goes on next. Not across your whole face, just in patches. A cheek, a brow, a chin, where yesterday's dust clung too tightly. You let it sit as you move to your eyes. The coal is dry, dark, ready. You trace the lines slowly, not for others, for yourself, so you can see, so you can begin. So, you can face the heat and light and gaze of the world, not as a warrior, but as a woman with a boundary, a line, a language of protection. You remember your grandmother doing this, not just the motions, but the mood, how her whole body shifted when the balm touched her, how the morning made her quiet, how the first breath after ritual always seemed to say, "Yes, I am still here." You remove the clay. It has dried to a pale pink crust. You do not rub. You wipe gently. And underneath, brightness, not perfection, not youth, just clarity, just now, just readiness. Your daughter stirs. You hear her in the next room, a cough, a yawn, a small voice singing without words. You smile, and before she enters, you finish. A drop of oil behind each ear, a comb through your hair, a final glance in the mirror. You see yourself, all of yourself, not just the day's face, but the night's memory, the dreamer, the worker, the witness. You do not dress in your best robe, just the one that breathes, the one with worn hems and the scent of time from 3 weeks ago. It fits, not just your body, your state of being, and that too is beauty. You step into the light. The sun crests the edge of the wall. Birds begin. Life resumes. But you are already ahead. Because you did not wake into chaos. You woke into care. You did not greet the world in pieces. You gathered yourself first. In the cool of morning, Egypt offers you a truth. Beauty is not the result. It is the process. It is the act of returning to yourself before the world asks who you are. And in that return, you find not vanity, but peace. And peace, like balm, must be applied daily, gently, without shame, and always, before the heat arrives. You may not know my name. You may never see my face. But if you are reading this, if you are hearing these words, then something I touched, a balm, a mirror, a scent, has reached you. And that is enough, because this is not just a story. It is a message, from one woman to another, across time, across skin, across breath. I lived in a house with 3 rooms and a courtyard full of mint. I oiled my legs each morning before stepping into the sun. I wore kohl not to seduce, but to see. I mixed perfume in bowls with cracked edges, stirring with spoons that once fed my child. I wept while combing my hair. I laughed while tracing lines on my arms with henna. I aged with grace and with difficulty. And still, I cared for myself, not to look young, not to stop time, but to stay present, to stay real, to stay rooted. Maybe you too wake in a world that asks much of you. Maybe you are pulled in 1,000 directions, by family, by duty, by the noise of expectation. And maybe, like me, you sometimes forget that your body is not a tool, not just a carrier of tasks, but a space of knowing, of remembering, of returning. Let me tell you this, you are not selfish for slowing down. You are not vain for wanting softness. You are not foolish for seeking rituals that don't produce anything but peace. Those rituals, they are survival, they are song, they are inheritance. When I pressed balm into my skin, I was not performing. I was praying. When I lit a lamp beside my mirror, I was not seeking approval. I was seeking presence. When I adorned my face, I was not hiding. I was claiming space for myself, for my story, for every woman before me, and every woman to come. Maybe your oils come in glass. Maybe your mirror is silver, your clothes different, your world faster. It does not matter. What matters is the care, the intention, the breath you take before you touch your skin, the silence you hold when you witness your own reflection, the grace you give yourself in moments when the world offers none. That is the true ritual. That is the beauty that survives empire and language and even death. I leave nothing perfect. No great wealth, no monument, no scrolls with my name. But I leave this, the scent of cedar, the feel of clay beneath fingers, the hum of the body when balm meets flesh, the sound of quiet before sleep, the look in the mirror that says, I am still here. Take this and make it yours. Add your oils, change the rituals, sing your own songs. But remember, beauty is not in the product. It is in the presence. It is not in how you look. It is in how you return to yourself. Again, and again, and again. If I could place one object in your hand, across time, it would be a small jar. Nothing inside, just the scent of memory, just enough space for you to add your own mixture, your own moment, your own self, because you do not need what I had. You only need what I remembered, that your body is a sacred space, that your care is a holy act, that your beauty, soft, strong, seen or unseen, is already enough. So go now. Touch your skin with reverence. Light a lamp even if no one sees it. Smell something sweet. Choose softness when you can, and when you cannot, survive. That too is sacred. And if one day you find yourself tired, unsure, distant from yourself, do this. Breathe. Begin again. Place your hands upon your arms and whisper the words that all the women before you have whispered in hundreds of ways. I am still here. I am worthy of care. I return. When the jar is empty, the beauty of not having to begin again. You didn't expect to reach this moment, not because you doubted it would come, but because you never imagined it would feel like this. There, on your shelf, sits your final jar of balm. Once full, now nearly hollow. Its sides are streaked with the fingerprints of 1,000 mornings and 1,000 nights. And today, as you lift it, it makes a sound you know too well. Light, finished, empty. You do not panic. You do not rush to refill. You hold the jar in your hands, thumb running the rim, eyes closed. You smell it, faint but still there. A trace of rose, a trace of time, and you let the silence fill the space the balm once did. Because this is the moment the ritual changes. This is the moment when care no longer means beginning again, but choosing to pause, to honor the end, and to know you have arrived. In Egypt, there is reverence for the full jar, but also, always, reverence for the empty one, because an empty jar does not mean absence. It means use. It means presence, lived fully. It means something served its purpose, completely. And now you are changed, not just by the balm, by the act, by the touch, by the memory, by the way you made it sacred, day after day. There were years you rushed this ritual, years when the balm was just something to slap on before stepping into the sun. Years when you doubted whether softness mattered at all, but not anymore, not today, because today you look at the empty jar and remember each season it held. The morning your belly swelled with life, the night you wept for someone who never returned, the quiet hour you sat beside your daughter, oiling her legs while she read aloud. This balm was a witness, this jar was a keeper, and now it is complete. You place it back on the shelf, not to throw away, to preserve, like an old letter. Like a memory you don't want to forget. You wipe the outside gently. You say thank you, not aloud, with breath, with touch, with the stillness that only comes when something sacred has ended. What comes next is not newness. It is simplicity. It is breath. It is sitting on the floor, hands resting on knees, skin bare. It is allowing the scent of your body to speak without additions, to be enough, because it is, because it always was. Your daughter walks in. She notices the empty jar. She lifts it, smiles. Finished? You nod. She does not ask if you'll make more. She knows better now. Instead, she asks, will you show me how you made it the first time? And you realize Even when the jar is empty, the beauty continues. Not through product, through memory, through sharing, through the next pair of hands, ready to mix, to stir, to begin. So you gather the ingredients again, not to refill for yourself, to pass it forward. The almond oil, the rose petals, the myrrh you stored in a small pouch wrapped in linen. You let her grind the petals. You show her how to strain the oil. You guide her wrist as she pours resin in slow circles. And you do not lead with perfection. You lead with joy, with permission to get it wrong, to try again, to find her own scent, her own rhythm, her own jar. That night she presents it to you, her first balm. It is clumsy, a little too thick, a little too sharp with spice. But when you press it to your skin, it becomes yours, because it was made with care. And care, as you've learned, is always beautiful, even when rough, even when young, even when just beginning. You place her jar next to your empty one, 2 vessels, one closed, one open, both sacred, both enough. And in this simple shelf of jars, you see it all, the beginning, the middle, the end, and the beginning again, not as repetition, as return, as renewal, as life. Because in the end, the body does not ask for more. It asks for honesty. It asks for softness. It asks to be met where it is. And in the silence of that meeting, beauty blooms again, without effort, without urgency, without fear. So let your jars empty. Let your rituals end. Let your hands rest, because nothing is lost. Everything is transformed. And you are the balm now. You are the mirror. You are the memory. You are the one who came after, and the one who prepares the next. Now that the jars are sealed, the combs stored, the balms used to the last drop, now that the rituals have been spoken, remembered, passed forward, there is only this: the quiet. Not silence, not absence, but a quiet full of meaning, a quiet that speaks the language of everything that came before, of everything that mattered. You sit once more in the courtyard, just as you did years ago, when your mother first placed a balm in your hand and said, "Start here." The same tiles, the same tree. But not the same you. Now you carry everything, not as weight, as wisdom, not as obligation, as offering. You think of the women before you, not the queens in their golden tombs, not the priestesses carved into temple stone, the other ones, the ones whose names are lost but whose gestures remain, the ones who ground herbs in silence, who pressed oil into cracked heels, who whispered songs while lining their daughters' eyes with kohl. They are gone, but not lost. You wear their memory. In the way you tie your hair, in the pause before you open your mirror, in the scent that clings to your wrist at dusk. Sometimes you wonder if they knew, if they understood that their smallest acts would become sacred, that the balm they stirred would echo across centuries, that someone, you, would one day trace their rituals and whisper, "Thank you." Maybe they didn't. Maybe they just lived. But maybe that's the greatest beauty of all, that they cared without needing to be remembered. That they tended their bodies not for history, but for life, and in doing so, they became eternal. You close your eyes, breathe in the wind that carries traces of old perfume and summer dust. You smell orange blossom, a faint memory of cedar, and something else, something your daughter wore yesterday, too strong, too sweet, too new, and yet beautiful, because it's hers, because it's becoming, because it will one day be remembered the way you remember yours. This is how it continues. Not with monuments, but with a hand reaching for a jar in the early light, with someone choosing to sit a little longer at the mirror, with a daughter watching a mother not as model, but as mystery, then trying it for herself, and failing, and laughing, and trying again. The rituals may change. The oils may smell different. The jars may be made of other things: glass, metal, digital icons on a screen. But the essence remains: the pause, the breath, the care. The promise to your own body: I see you, I honor you, you are enough. You think now of your own name, what it will mean when you are gone. Maybe nothing, maybe no one will speak it again, but you are no longer afraid of that, because your name is in your scent. Your name is in the brushstroke of balm on your granddaughter's elbow. Your name is in the quiet your daughter holds before she lays down to sleep. Your name is in the future, carried not by sound, by care. The sun shifts. The light changes. Your knees ache a little more now. Your hands are slower, but they are steady, and they still know what to do. The body remembers. The rituals do not fade. They just soften, like everything sacred. You rise. You close the last jar, not with sorrow, with peace. You place it on the shelf. You wash your hands, and for the first time in a long time, you rest, not because the work is done, but because it has been shared, because it will continue. Because the beauty you tended was never yours alone. It was always meant to be passed on, like breath, like story, like scent on the evening wind. The sun has long dipped beneath the palms. The sky, no longer gold, hums in quiet blues and purples. The house is still. But you are not alone, even now, especially now. You feel them, the women, not as ghosts, as presence, in the air, in the texture of the linen at your neck, in the weight of the silence that fills your room like perfume once spilled but never wiped. They are here, not to speak, to remain. Your granddaughter sleeps in the next room. A shallow breath, a small sound. She is too young to understand legacy, but not too young to absorb it. Already her fingers reach for oil instead of cream. Already she asks why you line your eyes before going nowhere at all. Already she imitates your rituals, not perfectly, but lovingly. And that, more than anything, is survival. Not through force, through imitation, through quiet watching, through scent. Tonight, you open the box. Not the old one. Yours was sealed and given. You open the one she made, your granddaughter. A clumsy wooden rectangle, painted too bright, still carrying the sharp scent of fresh glue. Inside, jars with mismatched lids. A half-used balm, sweeter than you would ever wear. A brush made of stiff straw. A ribbon from your sleeve she stole without asking. And tucked in the corner, a folded square of linen. It smells of her skin. And beneath it, a note, drawn, not written. 3 figures, 3 circles, 3 lines. A child's language. But you understand. You always will. She does not need your words. She needs your quiet. Your breath when you hold the mirror, but choose not to look. Your pause before touching your cheek. Your restraint when she mixes too much vinegar in the oil and you let her wear it anyway. Because learning does not come from correction. It comes from presence, from consistency, from the way you honor your own body without apology, until she understands hers deserves the same. Later that night you sit outside. The courtyard is dim. The moon, thinner now, rests behind a cloud. You close your eyes, and the scents come. Not strong, but layered, complex. The balm from your youth, barely there. Your mother's favorite oil, bitter and warm. The scent of temple smoke, henna drying on the backs of hands. A whisper of blue lotus, and something else. Something not yet made, not yet remembered. The future. You think back to the first scent you ever recognized. Not your own, your mother's hair, braided, glossed with castor oil and sweat. You remember how it smelled when she bent over your bed, how it lingered after she left, how it taught you that scent is presence, that it can stay even when the body is gone, that it can become a home. You think of what you leave behind, not money, not land, not even your name carved in stone, but this, a lingering scent, a softened gesture, a ritual remembered in the fingertips. The idea that beauty is a rhythm, not a goal. That care is not something earned, but something claimed. Daily. Quietly. You do not know who will speak of you in 100 years. Perhaps no one will. But maybe a woman will stand in her own quiet room, holding a jar, touching her face, hearing a voice she cannot name saying, "Be gentle. Take your time. You are already enough." And maybe, just maybe, she'll light a candle without knowing why, apply a balm without needing to, and in that moment, you will have returned. Because beauty, real beauty, does not vanish. It transforms. It moves from generation to generation. Not in jars, not in mirrors, but in the breath between one gesture and the next. You rise from the courtyard, return indoors, blow out the last flame, touch the corner of your granddaughter's blanket, then lay beside your own pillow, and as you close your eyes, you do not think of death. You think of continuity, of scent, of presence, of all the women still to come, and the sacred quiet they too will inherit when they open their jars and begin again.